Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Dexter Lawrence is looking to move on from the New York Giants, but will the Giants allow that to happen? Also, the Miami Heat are hanging on to their playoff hopes, and the Bucs have no choice but to commit to Baker Mayfield.
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
Vibes this offseason from the New York Giants have been remarkably high. You bring in John Harbaugh, a Super Bowl winning head coach. There's a young core in place here. And now we get reporting this week that Dexter Lawrence, their star nose tackle, wants out. They cannot reach a contract agreement. There has been reportedly contract disagreements between the two sides for some time now. And John Harbaugh, for his part, thinks there is an amicable solution here. Patricia Traina from Locked On Giants joins me now. Patricia, do you agree? Is there an amicable solution that makes sense for both sides at this point?
Yeah, I do. I really do. I mean, Dexter Lawrence has another 2 years left on the current contract he signed, which, by the way, you can argue he signed too early. Yeah. And, what do you expect? You sign it for 4 years, and of course the market rate's going to go up. And eventually you're going to go from being in the top 10 down to, I think he's 13th overall now, the 13th highest nose tackle. But I do think there's a solution. What that solution is, I mean, I could see them tacking on, incentives. I could see them tacking on, another couple of years with a few more $1 million guaranteed. That's really the big issue for Dexter Lawrence is the guaranteed money. He's out of guaranteed money, wants some financial stability. He's been working hard according to what, Harbaugh said today. Dexter is optimistic that he's going to come in. He's going to play the best ball of his life after last year's down year, which, was a down year for him. But for most guys, it would be probably like normal. So I do think at the end of the day, the two sides will kiss and make up and live happily ever after.
Okay. All that being said, if you're on social media at all over the last couple days, every fan base is going, hey, we should be trading for this guy. Is there a Godfather offer you think that could make the Giants change their mind on this?
Well, I think if somebody came along and offered the Giants 2 first-round picks, they'd say, oh, yeah, bring it. Yeah. Absolutely. I don't know that they would get 2 first-round picks. I floated a scenario which I think would make sense for the Giants. I floated this on Locked On Giants. I said, what if the Jaguars were to swing a deal and throw in Brian Thomas Jr., a receiver, which the Giants need. They need an ex-receiver. And, throw in, I think the Jaguars, I want to say, have 3 third-round picks, which the Giants have none. So, maybe something like that could tempt their taste buds a little bit. But I think, given Joe Shane's history, general manager, he tends to overvalue guys. So I don't know if that's his way of discouraging them from, wanting to make a trade or just say, well, look, I asked for this and I didn't get it. Not my fault that they didn't pay market value. But whatever the case may be, I do think they do have a price. John Harbaugh today said everybody is tradable, including me, including every reporter that was on that call. So
I'm sure he'd like to trade some of the reporters on that call, or at least he will in a year or two, Patricia. You excluded, of course. But okay, there's also this money problem, right? If part of the issue, part of the reason why he's saying trade me is because he doesn't think the Giants are going to give him the money that he wants. What does he want? Because I'm seeing reporting he wants to break the bank and reset the defensive tackle market for a guy who's going to turn 29 this year at nose tackle. Is that workable? Is that tenable for the Giants? And does it make sense for their timeline?
I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, do you get him into the top 5 highest paid defensive linemen? Yes, that I could see happening. But, the advantage here is if the Giants do something with his contract, they can actually clear out some cap space this year, which will help them. They're going to have to do that anyway. But if Dexter's looking to be the highest paid defensive lineman in the NFL, I don't think that's going to happen. Top 5, I could see that happening. And, I didn't see that report, so I don't know where that originated from, but I got to think that Dexter understands. Last year, he came off of a down year for him. Now, we would like to think that that's a one-off, but you don't know until you get out there. And there were some mistakes maybe that were made along the way with how the coaches got Dexter Lawrence ready, and that spilled over to the season. He wasn't in the best shape, yada, yada, yada. But, yeah, I don't think Dexter Lawrence is going to, if it makes sense to make him the highest paid defensive lineman in the NFL.
Stay up to date all year on the New York Giants by subscribing to Locked On Giants on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Your Locked On Sports today. Coming up, the Heat had a golden opportunity against the Raptors. Before we get to that, Victor Wembanyama is okay, thankfully. The NBA playoffs are nearly here, where every possession matters, every matchup is magnified, and every game can swing a series. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a great way to get in on the action. You can bet just $5 and get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. The app makes it easy to follow the action with player stats, trends, and matchups all in one place. And during the playoffs, that extra insight really matters. When you're looking at stars, role players, and key moments, it just makes the entire playoff experience more engaging from start to finish. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel, play your game. Victor Wembanyama suffered a rib contusion against the 76ers earlier this week, but thankfully avoided any major injury.
Once again, I'm just going to repeat this. This is all you need to know. This is all you need to know. Whether it's against the Blazers, the Mavericks on Friday, or the Nuggets on Sunday, Victor Wembanyama must play at least 20 minutes in one of those games to be eligible for regular season awards. And by the way, it's going to happen. Barring something shocking, it's going to happen. I can say that with confidence. It's going to happen. It's another story for a different day, but how crazy is it that the difference in an award that recognizes the accomplishments of this guy over the course of an 82-game season, that the difference in him being eligible and ineligible for these types of awards that recognize the greatness that has been Victor Wembanyama this season, the difference between being eligible and ineligible for an entire season is 20 minutes.
On the court, the Thunder traveled to face the depleted Lakers.
This is Andy Kamenetsky, co-host of the Locked On Lakers podcast. The Lakers lose 123-87 to the Thunder in LA. The Lakers were missing 4 starters: Luka Doncic, LeBron James, Austin Reeves, Marcus Smart, plus backup center Jackson Hayes. Not much of a chance against a Thunder team playing for a 1 seed. Nothing had to give in this scenario. Few positives for the Lakers. Luke Kennard, who could be pressed into more of a facilitating role in the playoffs. 9 assists against 0 turnovers on the heels of 11 assists versus Dallas. Rookie Adu Thero had a few really nice disruptive defensive plays and great attacks at the rim. Rui Hachimura 7 of 10 from the field. But overall, the game was really a reminder of how banged up the Lakers roster is right now and how tenuous their playoff hopes feel. For more Lakers coverage, make sure you're watching Locked On Lakers on YouTube and listening wherever you get your podcasts.
The Hornets battled with the Celtics.
Celtics didn't look great early, but they turned it on late third and then the fourth quarter to pull away from the Charlotte Hornets. I'm John Corrales from the Locked On Celtics podcast. Celtics in the fourth quarter did a great job defending LaMelo Ball, who had 36 points through 3 quarters and 0 points in the fourth. Meanwhile, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum things. Jordan Walsh's defense, I think, was a big factor. He came in for Sam Hauser and just did a great job just hassling LaMelo Ball, and the Celtics really picked up their defense to kind of pull away. Closing the third quarter on a big run, starting the fourth quarter on a big run. Shout out to Nikola Vucevic, who has looked not great through the first couple of games of his return, except he played most of the fourth quarter and looked better. It's an important element for the Celtics to get him going, just to have another kind of change of pace at center. But a really great back and forth game, really physical game, and the Celtics outlasted Charlotte. If this is a playoff preview, then it'd be a really fun series. I have a lot more on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Where else would the Miami Heat find themselves entering the final week of the regular season other than the play-in? Locked On Heat host David Ramil and Wes Goldberg reacted to the Heat's golden opportunity to steal a win from the Raptors, who sit just 2 games ahead of Miami as the 6th seed in the East.
I don't want to hear the excuse about the three-point shooting because they lost everywhere else, right? I know Toronto had a great game three-point shooting-wise. You look at the numbers here. They shot 43%, 12 of 28 overall. Miami made 12 threes, but it took them 44 tries, 27%. But again, they get outscored in the paint. They got 70-34. Toronto had 23 second chance points. Miami had 6. Toronto had 18 fast break points. Miami had 15. Again, rebounding battle, they lost it 62-53. Turnover battle, they lost it. They had 15 turnovers. Toronto had 12. I just don't want to hear any excuses. I don't want to hear it's because of this or that. That's it. They got clobbered by a team that, when you look at the standings, they were pretty close to. You look at the point differential for the season, they're actually better than. But as has been the case over this last this stretch where the Heat have kind of let go of the rope here, they just looked aimless on both sides of the ball all night long. And I think maybe one of the more troubling parts about this is that they were healthy. They were healthy in this game. Tyler Hero was back. Norm Powell was back. This was their preferred rotation. Hero starting, Powell coming off the bench, Pelle Larsson still in that starting lineup. It's just clear that this team is not good enough. And when you lose a game like this, with everything on the line, and now look, there's a difference between, okay, now they're officially locked into the play-in tournament with this loss, but we kind of knew that they were going to be in the play-in tournament, and they knew as an organization, yeah, we're not really playing for a playoff spot because the chances of us getting a playoff spot are in the single-digit percentage point. Like, we're not getting into the playoffs, but still, you would think that this team would have come out with some kind of sense of pride, right? In Toronto for the first time this season. A team that you could face in the playoffs if you make it, or potentially in the play-in tournament if Toronto drops back into the play-in mix. There's just a lot of reasons to want to go out and prove something and win this game. And again, you had your fully healthy rotation available, and you lose this game, and you get blown out, and you lose it in every facet. It is just clear to me that this team has let go of the rope. It is clear to me that this team's best basketball is behind them. It's clear that this team is not good enough. They are 10th in the Eastern Conference. They are probably going to finish 10th in the Eastern Conference if they keep playing this way. And what does 10th in the Eastern Conference mean? You are the worst team in the East of all the teams that are trying. Look at the standings. Look at them. Every team behind you, tanking teams. Milwaukee, Chicago, Brooklyn, Indiana, Washington. Those are the only teams that are worse than the Miami Heat by record this season. And I don't want to hear, oh, we're actually better than what our record is, whatever. Okay, how much better are you than your record? Are you 5 wins better than your record? 6, 7, 8? Does any of that really change the fact that you are a middling basketball team? No, not really. Not really. Win a few more games during the regular season, maybe we're talking about a chance at the 6th seed. Are you much better as a basketball team, functionally? If you're a 6th seed instead of a 10th seed? Instead of an 8th seed? Instead of a play-in team? Whatever you end up being? No, you're still middling. You're still a middling team. And I really hope that this front office has seen enough to make dramatic changes. Giannis or no Giannis, that this front office has seen enough of this to the point where dramatic changes are coming this summer. There is no way for this front office to sit here and credibly say, we like our team. To sit here and say, if for X, Y, and Z, if not for these things, maybe we could have made a run. You don't have the Jimmy Butler carrot anymore, which I thought was fool's gold for 2 years now. You don't have that. to say, well, let's just get into the playoffs and then playoff Jimmy will arrive and save us. That's not an option anymore. You don't have that to fall back on. You can't tell me about health. You can't sit here with the record that you have with Tyler Hero healthy and say, well, if Hero had been healthy all along, maybe this would have been different. Again, how much, even if it were different, and I do think having Hero all season long, your record probably would have been a little bit better. We're talking about 2 or 3 games, maybe? Are you materially a better and different basketball team with a full season of Tyler Hero? No, you're not. You're still not good enough. That's how bad you are.
Stay up to date all year on the Miami Heat by subscribing to Locked On Heat on your favorite podcast app. Coming up, the Bucs got to stick with Baker. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers face a franchise-defining decision. Stick with Baker Mayfield after an injury-riddled 2025 or pivot to a new QB. Locked On NFL hosts Tony Wiggins and Julian Council believe that the Bucs have no other choice but to stick with Mayfield long term.
Yeah, so here's why I say you give him a contract extension. One, you got to get him healthy. There's nobody's going to play hurt and be at their full potential. The other thing is, do you know how hard it is to find a starting caliber quarterback that you believe you can actually win with? Now, I know we've had these reclamation projects. Baker was one of the first. Geno Smith was another. But Sam Darnold actually getting to his second rehab team, well, maybe his third, but actually having his third lease on life. He won a Super Bowl this year. Do you think that factors into it and changes it a little bit? Or maybe more impact will be something that comes from a guy like what Levante David said about him being banged up?
If I'm the Bucs, that's the stealth Anthony Richardson team to me, because Todd Bowles may not be long for this world. This could be his last year in Tampa Bay. And Baker, he's not on one of those crazy $50+ million a year contracts. Tampa can deal with the ramifications of moving on from Baker Mayfield if they want to trade him or whatever. If this is a team that is just hitting its head on the ceiling of the quarterback who, would have to jump pretty high to hit his head on the ceiling. Anthony Richardson, on the other hand, could be the reclamation project that allows you to give yourself hope as you move forward, that you can reset the timeline and go forward. Mike Evans has already walked out the door. You've got Emeka Egbuka. You've got Tristan Wirfs in his prime. You've got some young defensive pieces that you like and some aging defensive pieces that you might like. And so maybe this is just not the right timeline and you need to give yourself a different opportunity. I really like the idea of the Bucs trying to find their Josh Freeman. Maybe Josh Freeman was pretty good there for a little while. I don't know, just thought. And finally, after a whole lot of sideline smoke at the Final Four, Dawn Staley is ready for everyone to move on. Following that heated postgame moment with Gino Auriemma, Staley said she spoke with him directly and made it clear one flash of frustration doesn't erase everything he's meant to the sport. Gino already apologized both privately and publicly. Staley accepted it, and now she's basically telling the rest of us to stop clutching our pearls. Because while everyone else was busy dissecting a handshake between two of the sport's GOATs, South Carolina was busy, winning the game itself. That's still the point. They lost the national championship, but they still beat a perfect UConn team in the Final Four. Coming up, which teams are stressing out as the NBA regular season enters its final week? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.